Now in its 10th year, this is Gabnet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, I'm from Harlem in New York City. Partially recorded. This is the Alex Bennett program, The Ramble. Hello, Bobby Slayton.
That's my introduction. Let me explain something to you. You know, when I used to come on this show, and the other 40 shows you got fired from, and the other 12 shows you quit, and the other few shows that you got older you forgot you had. Whatever. Every time I do a show, you give me this great introduction, which was actually getting kind of boring because it was the same introduction all the time. And not only that, but I would always get all dressed up for your show.
Yeah,
I just
you
worked
would.
out,
You would.
and I said I should put on a shirt with sleeves. And I go, why should I do that when Alex shows up like Beaver Cleaver or Gomer Pyle on leave? You know, you show up like why should I get dressed up for you, for your imaginary viewers and listeners, when you don't even care about them?
Well, at least I'm wearing pants.
How do you know I'm not wearing pants?
I don't know if you're wearing pants.
Alex, it's not like the old days, Alex. I've changed. My pants. Not my underwear yet.
Not your underwear.
My pants. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. You want me to give you the big introduction?
No. Because nobody cares.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's
they've
Bobby
tuned out
Slayton.
by now. But what's interesting, I told my girlfriend not to call between 11 and 12 my time because we were doing an interview with. Didn't you just do Alex's show a few weeks ago? I said yes, but he wants me back on again. And she said, well, he must really like you because you're such a good interview that he wants to talk to you more. And I thought, yeah, that's right. And then I realized it's probably not that. It's probably that he can't get anybody else to do the show.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, no, yeah. But you know, I mean, the reason I do these with you is because we're old friends. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
old friend.
And that's why we do it more than like once a year.
Yeah, I like when people say we're old friends, but then if you have somebody to borrow money or you need them to help you move, they're not such a good friend. Well, I'm an old friend. My back hurts, and I'm on Social Security.
Yeah.
And then it becomes that kind of old where I wish I could help you, but I can't. All right. Anyway,
but
hopefully that day won't come soon. How are you?
Fine, but it's nice that you have acceded or what's the word I'm looking for? I've lost all.
Hasidic? Yeah, I've got Hasidic. I don't need Portuguese. Hasidic? Is that the word?
I thank you for acquiescing to do the program. Finally, I came out with a big word.
Well, I had nothing else to do, really. I told you, my day's not like Groundhog Day where every day is the same. For a guy that's semi-retired like myself, it always seems, and it probably because I have a house, that there's always something to do, and then but I'll find stuff to do. Like I'll go, I'm out of paper clips. Do I really need them today? I better go down to Staples and get some paper clips.
Wait a minute. You go to Staples to buy your paper clips? I just go to Amazon. Oh, I need paper clips. And they're like, 49 cents, and they still ship them to me.
Right. Well, you know what, though? I'm looking for an excuse to get out of the house. I'm on Amazon enough. And as much as I...
Well, I mean, but when you were in the middle of this whole thing, which is still really going on, this pandemic, I found I ordered everything on Amazon.
Me too.
I had Instacart who went to Costco for me. I didn't do any. I didn't leave the house.
Well, the thing is, look, I like going to Costco. I'll go there every couple of weeks because I like going there because I see things I don't realize that I needed or I wanted, and I like to look at the wine selection. I like to look at stuff.
You get to see stuff you didn't know you didn't need.
But sometimes you don't need it, but you want it. Sometimes you want it, you forgot to put it in your cart. Look, I'm on Amazon a lot. What's interesting is that, I try to go to there's one local bookstore left at the bottom of the hill, and occasionally I'll go in there to look at books that, I go, well, here's a book. Wow, I didn't know Mel Brooks had a new biography out or whatever. And then I look at the price and I can get it on Amazon, half the price probably, but it's not right. I like to give money. Since I'm there, I give money to my local bookseller.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah. Now I like to do that, but at the same time, I realized there was a lot of stuff I didn't realize I could get on Amazon. It finally sunk in,
Mm-hmm.
Like my girlfriend would get me this shampoo. She said was great for gray hair, and it was available at this beauty supply place a mile away. And then I realized, why did I see if it's on Amazon? Of course it's on Amazon. So I take advantage of that as much as I can as well.
I feel somewhat guilty about it, because of exactly what you said about the bookstore.
Right.
That it's nice to go to the local store and buy it, but unfortunately
Right.
they can't compete price wise, and they can't compete with the fact that I'm lazy. Okay.
Right.
And all I
Right.
have to do on Amazon is go click, and I get my paper clips.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, no, that's fine. But I'm not lazy, and I like to go out and do things. And I jump in my car. I live like LA is not a walking town, so
No.
but I live literally 5 minutes from my dry cleaner, my bank, my 5 grocery stores, my Whole Foods, my bookstore. So it's nice. Usually what I'll do is I just go down to the valley, do everything, and come home and feel like I've done something productive and constructive today. Well, as a matter of fact, when I'm done talking with you, we're having a heat spell, so I got to go to the nursery and replace a few plants. I feel like this is gonna be a big day for me. I'm a gardener now. I plant. I'm a horticulturist.
When I lived in California, as you know, I always had a car, and I would even get in the car to go 3 blocks up to the pharmacy. Right?
That's because you were a lazy fuck.
Yeah.
I'm a walker,
Yeah, but
the last time my girlfriend and I were in New York, what was amazing to me, that she outwalked me one day. We'd stay in an apartment uptown on the east side, and if people know New York, we would walk all the way down to the village, and we'd stop along the way. Oh, it's happy hour for oysters here, and I'd have a list of places I might want to go. Hey, let's stop in here for a beer. Let's have a glass of wine. Let's keep walking. Let's get a pedicure. And we'd walk and walk and walk to the village. We'd walk from the East Village, then over to the West Village, walk back uptown, and cut across again. We basically walk, 10 miles to 15 miles, maybe in a day.
Oh, really?
We really traversed New York City. But there was one day, and I had my new Skechers on. I love my Skechers. She outwalked me. I go, can we just take a break? And it was kind of cool that I have a woman in my life who can, one time, outwalk me.
Well, here's the point. To begin with, I walk every day. I take about a 1.5 miles to a 2 mile walk every day, just to walk. Okay. But the fact is that when I was in California, had a car everywhere I went. Car. Go up to the mountains, go down to the seashore, drive. I behind the wheel of a car. Now I live in New York. I haven't owned a car since 2004.
Well, let me ask you something. When you lived in San Francisco, and I remember one of the apartments you had in the marina, you were literally a 5 to 10 block walk to Chestnut Street to buy some. You wouldn't even walk to Chestnut Street to go to the movies and go to the drugstore? Do anything? No?
Most of the time I would do that just because finding a parking space if I drove there. But wait a minute, the pharmacy did have a parking lot. So, But anyway, the point I'm making here is I haven't had a car since 2004, and whenever I've needed a car, I've rented it. And I haven't rented a car in about 4 years. I have not driven in 4 or 5 years. I don't know if I know how to drive anymore. I just have that fear. If I got behind the wheel of a car, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't have the skills.
But you know what? You must be getting really old, because driving a car is like the old thing about riding a bicycle. Once you do it, you're not.
I'm sure it is.
You're not going to.
I'm sure it is. But I get a little lightheaded lately, and I'm afraid that I don't have the same control I did. Our old friend Gary Haber, he quit driving because he hit a guy on a bike by accident. It didn't hurt him, But he said after that, I'm through driving, and now his wife drives him everywhere.
You sure it was by accident? Because I'll tell you, right where I live on Mulholland, these asshole bike riders, they hog the lane, and I'm always thinking I would love to swerve and just hit one of these motherfuckers. Not kill them, but, incapacitate them.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But
fuck the bike riders.
Point is, so I have a great fear of that. If I get behind the wheel of a car, I either won't know what to do, or I just don't have the same clarity of thought that I once had. I take a drug every day for my neuropathy that makes me kind of forget stuff, and I'm just afraid that I won't be able to drive, and that's a real fear I have.
Okay, let's get back to me.
Let's get back to you. Let's get back to what was your career. Okay.
Yeah, well, I have nothing to really talk about since I talked to you last time.
You've really
nothing going up.
You've really quit, haven't you?
Well, it's like that old. I think I said this last time on your show. You can't fire me. I quit. So when I told you this last time, that, and I'm sure I did because look, if I was making Bill Maher, Bill Burr, Wild Bill Hickok, any Bill, if I was making Leno, if I was making the $100,000 to $200,000, dollars a show and playing Carnegie Hall and working the Ryman Theater in Nashville, whatever. But I was playing horrible comedy clubs, and my audience is, they're like you and me. They're not going out, or they're dead, or they're not driving. And look, I would never go.
But here's what I don't get. Wait a minute. Listen to me. Here's what I don't get. If I go anywhere in this country and I walk into a comedy club, and there are a bunch of comics there who at least have been around for a while, all right? Yeah. And I say, have you ever heard of Bobby Slayton? They'd suddenly say, oh, best comic ever. He's one of the best that ever existed. So
comics would say that, not audience members. They don't know who I am. Well, so it's okay. Because the audience,
they don't know who John Lennon is. Okay.
Believe me, that's been going on for years. When I point to somebody in the audience, I will go back 20 years. Hey, can you name the 4 Beatles? No, they can't. That was before my time. Well, fuck you, you dumb cunt. It was before your time. How about that guy in a dollar bill? He was way before my time. I know who he is. You know? How about that guy with blackface who did the first talking picture? I know who he is, you fucking retard. People don't know anything about the history of this country, And I'm not talking about political stuff. I'm not talking about FDR and the New Deal. I'm talking about just pop culture stuff, which is what comedians talk about. They don't know anything. They don't know the colors of the Civil War, the Confederates and the Blues and the Grays. They know nothing. But hey, and then there'll be comics talking to them, and I'll watch these opening comics.
But wait a minute, how about? But hold on a second. You walk out on the stage, you make people laugh. You're funny, okay?
Right.
What does that have to do with age? And especially in your act, your references aren't, couched in old stuff and whatever. It's just you telling jokes about things you see. How does that have an age value?
Well, okay. Well, first of all, it's become very cliched. Hey, the difference between men and women? And I was doing a lot of material. And I was not.
You can't do that anymore. You can't do it anymore.
It's almost like, oh, hey, cats and dogs. You know what the difference between cats and dogs? Okay, the most cliched, and it doesn't matter how great of a take you have on that, unless you would come up with something brilliant. I mean, Leno in the early days was always great. Everybody did McDonald's joke, and McNuggets, and this, and then Jay had the joke about McDonald's. Jay had the joke about how small airplane bathrooms were. Jay said, okay, done. We're done. Anyway.
Well, wait a minute. It's not that Jay had it, okay? It was just that Jay had I hate to call it a bully pulpit, but he had a place where if he told a joke and it was the same joke you thought of, forget it, you can't do it ever again.
No, well, that wasn't it. I was just saying that he wrote the best jokes about every thing. And now, every comic has done a joke about having a baby. And, I think I said this on your show last time, smoking pot now. There's a whole generation of comics that never heard Cheech and Chong. They never heard of Bobby Slayton. They never heard of even the great George Carlin.
Okay.
So they're doing jokes, not that they stole them, but it's all shit that's been done before. And when my wife died, I stopped the men and women jokes and the wife jokes. And then, it's just, I got sick of doing it, basically.
Well,
I got tired of doing it. I'm tired of it.
You can't do those women jokes anymore.
Well, you can't do them, but I haven't. I haven't been on stage in almost. I haven't been on stage in almost 2 years.
Yeah, but you can't. You can do them, but you'll never work again.
I'm not working now. What do I give a shit? Rat's ass. Yeah. I don't want to do it. And I see all these comics who don't need the money going back to work because they love doing it. I mean, I see Bill Maher, who's making worth a fortune. I love his real time, but at the end of every show, I'm going here next week. I'm going there next week. He's still on the road. Him and Seinfeld and all these guys don't need the money, but obviously they have a great love for doing it.
Yes.
And again, if I was making that kind of money and not staying at a Holiday Inn Express and getting up and doing some morning radio with some waitress driving me, telling me what her lifetime dreams are, stuck in traffic, in Sarasota, Florida, well, fuck this shit, Yeah. So I put away not enough money. I'm still working a little. I'm doing, commercials for my friends at Skechers who I love, and I'm doing an occasional gig, and I got a little stock.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, but I mean,
I'm paying my bills.
By the way, be happy to know that I just online bought my first pair of Skechers.
They're the best shoes ever.
Well, I haven't tried them yet, and I hope the size I got was right and all of that. I ordered the size I get in others. So,
see, there's another thing I can't do online is order shoes. Although with Skechers, I know what size I wear, but things are always different. I like to go to a shoe store or a Macy's or whatever, try on a pair of whatever, and walk around the store like the old days. You know when they, although you know what, they never did work. You ever try? I'm sure you've done. You're trying a pair of shoes. And they feel great, and as soon as you walk 10 blocks, you go, "Fuck! What was I thinking? These things suck."
I bet you don't remember this, but when I was a kid, and that was back in the Stone Age,
right?
In a shoe section of your department store or whatever,
the metal thing you're going to talk about. The metal thing.
No, I'm going to talk about the thing you put your feet in, and it shows you a what do you call it? Like an X-ray of your feet.
No.
Yes. The light came on, it was green, it was X-rays. And then you looked through this thing and you got to see the bones in your feet.
What? Wait. I mean, you're older than me, but how come they never had that when I was a kid? They had that big metal thing
but
that you put your foot on.
I'm still waiting to get foot cancer, from it.
Right,
but
exactly.
Those were the days where when they had X-rays and it was new and it was scientific. Hey, to put an X-ray machine in the shoe store to look at your feet to see how your bones are in your feet, so they can give you a pair of shoes, was very unusual.
No, I remember just going to. There was a Tom McCann that opened by my house in Westchester, and I wanted to go to Tom McCann because I wanted to see the dog inside the shoe. Because the boy is Buster Brown, and the dog is Tiger's friend.
Well, Buster,
and they don't really live there, but it's fun to play pretend. So
Buster Brown was a cartoon.
Tom McCann, I'm not Buster Brown. I said Tom McCann.
Was a comic strip, and he had a dog Tig, and they said look for Buster Brown and his dog Tig in the shoe. So.
Right.
See, I remember all this stuff, folks.
And how did the song go? Does your shoe have it? Come on, you're good with that.
I don't know that.
Dog inside.
I never.
That was a big commercial.
Now, here,
what a funny place for a dog.
I'll show you how we differ in age. Okay, who was the host of that TV show?
That was before my That was before which TV show?
What do you call it? The show that was sponsored by Buster Brown, and I don't want to.
Well, first of all, you have to remember something. You grew up on the West Coast. I grew up on the East Coast, so there were regional shows.
Everybody remembers it as Andy Devine being the host of that show.
Okay, Andy Devine. He kind of talked like me if I had throat cancer.
Yeah.
Andy Devine. Okay, well, he had a show, not Super Adventure Theater. That was Claude Kushner.
No,
but I remember watching Andy Devine when I was a kid.
It was
on a black and white.
Something Andy. But before that,
Andy's World.
With all the characters like Froggy the Gremlin. Do you remember Froggy the Gremlin?
Yeah, I remember.
And what was the cat's name? Midnight the Cat.
But
wait a minute. Hold on a second.
4 or 5 years old.
To show you the difference in my age. That show originally on radio and then originally on television was the creation of and starring a guy named Smilin' Ed McConnell. Do you remember him? See?
Absolutely not.
You don't remember, but I do.
But you know what? There's a lot of people I don't remember, but I'm so steeped in nostalgia of pop culture, especially television, movies, and music, that over the years, look, when I grew up in the 60s, I had no idea that, I was a big Rolling Stones fan. So when they did Love in Vain, I didn't know who Robert Johnson was. And of course, I didn't know who half these people were until I saw Buster Poindexter. Right. Oh, that was Arrow from the Caribbean. And so, I never knew who people were, but I've made it a point to educate myself, not to tell anybody about it, just so I knew when I listened to an old blues song, and I have a great blues collection now, and I'll put on some music. Oh God, I thought the Beatles originally did that. I thought this was some, and you don't realize this, there's so much great music out there.
Right.
I remember you turned me out to Dr. John, the Night Tripper. I never knew who that lunatic was.
Right.
I remember hearing him on you, and then Allison Steele, the Nightbird, WNW, played Dr. John. Who's this guy? And he'd been around for years, and Professor Longhair. So I love all that stuff now. So that guy you just mentioned, McConnell, never heard of him.
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, but you heard about Andy Devine and his show.
I remember watching
with
the
same thing. Yeah. Well, what happened was they decided, Smilin' Ed's just not with it anymore. So he still owned the show, but they just got Andy Devine to be the host. So
they should do that for you because you can still own the Alex Bennett show. Since you can't do anymore, they should get Andy Devine.
Here's what you're talking about, though. Here's what you're talking about. That audience, you say, would not understand what you're saying. Okay. Right. They would not understand what we're talking about right now. That's why nobody listens to this program.
Alex, I don't even understand what we're talking about. I'm just talking out of my ass. Hope it'll be over so I can jump back in my pool. Okay. No, but that's, it's funny you mention this because right now I'm reading this incredible book that came out in 2017, Mort Saul's biography, not autobiography, written by a guy named James Curtis. Some people turned me onto it. It's called Last Man Standing. And I'm only on the third or fourth chapter. They haven't even got to the Lenny Bruce part. But they're talking about Enrico, and they're talking about how Mort Saul. Do you remember Don Steele? I know in San Francisco, he wrote a column. It wasn't the real Don Steele, the DJ. No. But Don Steele, he wrote a column in the Herb Cain days. Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Remember this guy?
No, okay. I don't.
Well, anyway, they gave Mort Saul a radio show. I think broadcast out of Berkeley once a week, and he had Stan Kenton on. Because Mort Saul was a big jazz fan.
Yeah.
And he would open up for the Stan Kenton group and all these jazz bands in San Francisco. And these were clubs that were long gone before I got there. So him and Mort Saul were talking, and I'm reading this in the book. And after 15 minutes, Stan Kenton said, "Do you think anybody out there understands one word of what we're talking about?" So it was the same thing, that these guys are so immersed in jazz and whatever they were talking about. They didn't give a shit that nobody understood. They were talking about what interested them, is what we're doing, know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I just figured, what the hell? I'm 81 years old. I may as well act like it,
Alex, let me explain something to you. When I met you, you're probably 35 or 40. You acted like you were 81 back then.
I was practicing.
You're practicing, and now you kind of grew into it. I was just saying to my girlfriend this morning, my God, I'm 66. I feel so old. She goes, yeah, but you're in the shape of a 50-year-old. I go, well, that's old too.
Yeah, exactly. But
and I see that Charlie Watts just dropped out of the Rolling Stones tour because of he had a little operation. And I go, he's 80. It kills me that Mick Jagger's 78 and still.
Well, I used to have a joke about that. I said the Rolling Stones are getting too old. So old that the next tour is going to be called the Steel Walker Tour,
Okay.
Yeah. Because they have a Steel something tour at the time.
Right.
Forget it.
Instead of the Steel Wheels tour, nobody even will remember what they were talking about.
I'm just a radio host. I'm not really a comedian. So
I wish I was talking to Andy Devine right now.
If you stick around, you will be. Do you know how he got that voice? In case people don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch some old Roy Rogers movies and stuff like that.
That's right. He was in all he was his sidekick, right.
Yeah. But he was the Western sidekick. But he had this really gravelly voice, and he got that when he was a kid. He fell on a stick, and it went in his mouth, and he kind of fucked up his vocal cords, and that's why for the rest of his life he talked that way. But he got hired because of that voice. People
always ask me what happened to my voice, and I go, I fell on a cock in San Francisco. It was nothing I want to relive.
Well, you had polyps taken out, right?
Yeah, a few times. But if you remember when I would get on stage, I would yell all the time. And then I realized you don't have to yell with every joke, every punchline. You can actually, So I started doing voice exercises, and I don't yell much anymore. Well, but my voice is now permanently callous.
I think at the time I talked to you, and I said that the way in which I learned to use my voice, and I never got polyps, was I was taught if you can't feel it in your chest, then you're not doing it right. In other words, the sound has to come from here. And I think I told you that, but you never listened to me. Because you never listened to me.
I probably couldn't hear back then either.
When I told you to go into aluminum siding, you never listened to me.
I know. And then I saw the movie Tin Men and realized I should have done that.
Yes, exactly.
Remember that movie Tin Men? Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
I read for that for Barry Levinson. It's so funny. Here's what I love about living in L.A. I ran into Barry Levinson. There's a little shopping center right by my house. This a great little shopping center. And Paul Stanley's up there every day drinking coffee. I see Rod Stewart there. I see John Voight. Whoever lives in the neighborhood. Joyce Thorogood, And it's funny because I saw Thorogood in the grocery store the other day, and I said to him, I'm wondering if I should get one bourbon, one beer, or one whiskey, or a beer and 2 shots. I don't know what to get. What would you recommend? You know the song he does?
Yeah.
One bourbon, one scotch, one beer.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then I see Paul Stanley all the time, and I always say, who likes to rock and roll all night and drink coffee every day? And he rolls his eyes because every time I see him, I do that joke.
Well,
but anyway,
it's got to be like there are actors who have lines they're famous for, and people must come up to them all the time and say them.
But I saw Barry Levinson in the grocery store, and I haven't seen Barry since 2001 or whenever we did the movie Bandits. And I was that reporter with Bruce Willis and Billy Bob Thornton. So he was online waiting for coffee. And I just rushed up to him and go, I hear the sleepover bandits are out of jail again. I'm doing a big story because I was like a news reporter. And it was just nice. I entertained myself. I'm not sure if anybody else is entertained.
And did he look back at you and go, "You're who again?"
Yeah. By the way, he's a great guy. He gave me a great part.
Oh,
he made me read like five times. But I read for 10 minutes. And it was such a bad actor.
I think that's one of the biggest parts you've had in movies. In fact,
and it's probably 8 minutes, and probably 7 to 8 minutes.
Maybe playing Joey Bishop in the Rat Pack thing may have been.
That might have been 10, 11 minutes. I was throughout the movie, but no more than 30 seconds to a minute.
Well, that's the way Joey Bishop's career was. So
Yeah, and then I don't know how to do this with my. I was gonna reverse my. And then wait a second. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, because I'm really bad with reversing. Hold on a second. Wait, I got to show you this. Okay. You know what? I'm afraid I'm going to lose you if I fuck with anything. Okay. Wait, switch camera. Push. Wait, switch.
There,
okay, wait.
There you go. See?
So there's I was a Mexican in Wayne's World too.
Right, you were.
Yeah. Okay, let me switch back. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I can't believe I pulled that up. Yeah. That was yeah. And then wait. Let me show you another one.
As long as he's learned how to use the camera in reverse.
So that was my first TV appearance. That was Sandy Becker.
Yes.
Who was one of the first morning
TV.
He was.
One of the coolest here in New York.
Yeah. That's me singing Popeye the Sailor Man on the Sandy Becker show when I was 5. Okay. But anyway, it was so funny that with Wayne's World 2, I went in to read. It was literally maybe a 20 to 30-second scene. Maybe. Yeah. And it was a I was in the credits of the watermelon wrangler.
Okay.
And I think if you used a black guy to carry watermelons, that would have been too racist. If you used a Mexican to carry, farm worker, that would have been too obvious. So they used me, which is fine.
That's fine. Right.
My big 30 seconds in Wayne's World too. And it took all day to film the fucking scene too, but whatever.
Well, whatever. So
whatever.
So basically, you're not doing the clubs because a lot of your material today would be considered wrong.
That's not why I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because everybody was off for a year, and then when it was time to go back, look, I'm doing a corporate gig for these guys in October in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. That will be almost 2 years that I have been on stage. So in the next month or two, I'm gonna have to go back to the Improv or the great club Flappers.
You're gonna have to work. You're gonna have to work out.
I'm gonna have to do that, and I don't really give a shit if people. I'm gonna be performing for a bunch of guys doing like 40 minutes. It's a very, very tough gig. They're a great receptive audience, but to not work for 2 years and just go back cold, that's going to be tough. So I'm going to have to go back to the club and do some of the old stuff, and I'm going to do the Chinese stuff, and I'm going to do the women's stuff, and, the Me Too movement, which I'm a little tired of already.
I got to bring this to a close, and by the way, stick around after we're through because I want to say goodbye to you. But what I want you to do...
You can't say goodbye on the air?
Well, I mean, I want to talk to you after we're through here,
Is there something you want to talk to me about we can't talk about in front of your imaginary viewers?
Yeah, it's a real personal problem. No, anyway, for closing, and since you can't do the material anymore, okay, because it's not woke, all right?
Right.
Tell me the worst woman joke you've ever heard.
The worst woman joke I've ever heard?
Yeah.
I can't remember jokes. I don't know. I can tell you the best one. I mean, it's a classic. You're not going to write a better joke than if, women didn't have a pussy, there'd be a bounty on their heads.
There we go. Boom.
That's the greatest joke. That's one of the greatest jokes I've ever heard.
Yeah, yeah.
Period.
The one I always liked was, why do women have periods? And that's because they deserve it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of whipping jokes, you know. And, there's just some great one-liner jokes.
You know what they then go? They go, you tell those kind of jokes because you hate women. No, we tell those kind of jokes because they're funny.
And we hate women.
And we hate
funny
women.
first. Yeah, look, I got a great girlfriend, but she's, women are all lunatics. I've never met one that isn't a lunatic.
Of course. And,
my girlfriend, and she doesn't like me talking about it, will always say the same thing my late wife said. Why are you yelling? I'm not yelling. I'm a Jew. I'm a New Yorker. This is how I talk. And then the last Jerry Seinfeld special, he did that same line. My wife says, or something similar. My wife, how come you yelling at me? Because that's how I talk. I yell. I'm not yelling at you.
Exactly. Hey, listen, we've gone way over what I normally go over with anybody, but you're worth every second of it. Every moment I have savored here spending with you. Can we do this again? I really love doing it. And then you're going to have to answer to your girlfriend. You just talked to him a month ago,
Yeah.
And then you say, well, we've been best friends for, God, how many years now? Jeez.
I don't even know.
God.
I've known you longer than Andy Devine. Let's leave it at that.
Exactly. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Slayton. He's not playing anywhere. He just came on here because he's a nice guy, and he did this for me.
I'm actually, you know what? In October, I'm actually hosting a show with Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert has it on his website. Gilbert Gottfried's a dirty comedy, filthy comedy festival or something.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I wanted to be on it. I go, I haven't worked. I'll host it with Thea Vidal and a woman. It's two women, Patty Rosborough and Thea Vidal. I said, I'll host it. So that's going to be my big return to stand up. I didn't put it on my website because I'm not my show.
And that's really going on the internet, so it's not like exactly stand up, but Anyway,
what's that?
Is it a thing that's going to be?
No, it's a live show.
Oh, it's a live
hotel in Vegas in October. It's on Gilbert's website, so I'm going to host Gilbert's show. So that's my big return. But I only have to do 10, 15 minutes and host it. So hopefully I'll be in shape by then.
Okay. Well, you can always come on here and work out. Okay.
Not to say it's not the same thing. You got to go and do it in the club. Unfortunately.
I know. Bobby Slayton, ladies and gentlemen. Say goodbye, Bobby.
Okay, goodbye, Bobby.
Now in its 10th year, this is GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Yes, that was Bobby Slayton, and it's an old interview, and I thought I'd dig it out tonight because, I just thought I'd dig it out tonight. It's a little long. A lot of people were expecting to be on here, but we only have one person waiting to talk to me, but it's a quality person. Okay, that's what I say. It's a quality person. But that was Bobby, and he was going to be appearing with Gilbert Gottfried, so I don't know how old that interview is. Boy, because, Bobby... Gilbert hasn't been alive for quite a few years now, so that had to be a long time ago. Anyway, let me admit somebody, one person here, and there he is. Turn your thing sideways.
I know. It's one
there
way
you go.
down.
Other way. There. No.
I know.
Yeah, there you are. There you are. See? I hate.
Oh no, but I got you in the background. See, I have you over there. You have your picture. I have my picture.
Oh,
your
I
TV
see.
picture.
Okay. All right. Well,
okay.
There's a delay there. You're the only person that's called tonight.
Really?
Thursdays are terrible. But
Yeah.
I thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody else just called.
Don't let him in. Who is it?
Jeff Stein.
Don't let him in.
Jeff Stein? A nice guy. Come on.
No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Guy can't ignore it. He's can you hear me, Jeff?
Oh.
Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then your audio's fine. Everything. I don't know what you're looking for. You're fine. Yep.
I really
Just smile,
enjoyed
Jeff.
hitting your buddy Bobby.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd replay it because he's always worth replaying.
Yeah. And they mentioned Gilbert. It's like, oh.
Yeah. When I heard that, I went, well, I should have checked that one out.
I knew it was old Ben. Yeah.
But I figure, well, hey, Bill, maybe Gilbert survived. I don't know. Anyway, here comes Tom Yamaguchi. He's a good one. He's a good one to have here. There we go. Hello there, Tom. How are you?
Fine. Charlie Watts died in 2021. So this interview was definitely before 2021.
Before 2021, and
Yeah, I think you mentioned what Bobby Slayton mentioned was that Charlie Watts had retired from the Rolling Stones. I think he was retired for about. Well, he left because he had an operation or something, but he was. I think he was maybe a year before he died, maybe less.
And Gilbert died. When did Gilbert die?
I didn't look at that one. I could look and check.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Zoom. Let's see here. Echo. When did Gilbert Gottfried die? April 12th, 2022. Okay.
April 12th, 2022. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So
2 years.
Yeah. So I think this thing had to be back in, what do you figure, in 2020 maybe?
Yeah. Well, you didn't mention the pandemic. That's interesting.
Yeah.
When did he start doing the Skechers commercials?
He's been doing that for a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
Long
Yeah.
time.
So long the commercials from him have stopped.
Yeah.
They have stopped? Okay.
I had one a few months ago.
How were your sketches? You've had them for a few years now.
I'll tell you, I don't wear them anymore.
But did you like them?
Well, I like them, but I may go back to trying them again, oddly enough. But I bought these new kind of shoes, and I can't remember the name of them. It's Cups or Krups or something like that. And they have a reinforced heel, a metal thing on the bottom where the heel fits, so that you have more stability, and also just several other features for people who have problems like I do. But I haven't tried the Skechers lately to see if maybe they're more comfortable than these are. I don't know, but I have to. I don't know. But I haven't worn Skechers in quite a while. Plus, they keep bugging me on the internet, so I get tired of them. Bother me bugging me on the internet. I love. I'm very pro St. Jude's Hospital.
Yes.
And I'm pro St. Jude's because I like the ads. The ads don't exploit the children. They exploit the parents, but they don't exploit the children. And that's fine with me. You've got to sell the product, but you don't have to say, oh, look how pathetic this kid looks. Please help him, And so unlike a lot of the other organizations like that, they do a pretty good job of it. But so I sent them $100. All right. That should make them happy.
Oh, no.
All of a sudden, I start getting emails like crazy from them. Oh, give us some more money, email that, and I'm thinking to myself, I was actually thinking of willing all the money that I have to St. Jude's. Okay, which between Marjorie and I is over $1 million. Okay, but the other day I'm sitting at home and the phone rings and I answer it and it's St. Jude's Hospital. Well, we thank you very much for your donation, and we wanted to call up and just say thank you. However, if you have any more money you'd like to give us, and I went, listen. I gave you $100. I planned on giving you more, much more, but I'm not going to give it to you now. And if you don't get off the phone right now, I'm never going to give it to you. The guy hung up. Okay. I mean, come on. You don't have to. Once I give a certain amount of money, I only sent him $100. But geez, that's probably $50 more than most people. And I was even going to send them more again in a month or so because I just, I like them. And then they call me all the time and they start bugging me online, and I'm going, what the hell is this all about? Okay. So,
Well, they know they have somebody who believes in their product. So,
yeah. And but they, here, I'm going to have a Tylenol here. I'm having a slight headache. Amen. Boy, these things are noisy, aren't they? Listen to them. Anyway.
My daughter's husband works at Boston Scientific for children. And it's a competitor with the one that you're working with.
Well, St. Jude's is a cancer hospital for children. Is that what they do up in Boston?
I don't know if exactly cancer as compared to.
Well, if it's not, they're not competitors, because St. Jude's is basically a hospital for childhood cancer.
Okay, I have to look that up.
I thought they did other.
And no, they primarily deal with cancer.
Okay.
And cancer research, I might add.
Okay.
And since I have leukemia, but it's not childhood leukemia, I feel somewhat of a kinship with them.
Well, as I mentioned before, it's actually the first integrated hospital in the South.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When Danny Thomas set it up, he specifically had, an integrate. Children of all races were welcome to that hospital. He was the first one.
Well, if they accept your child to the hospital, you can come and stay in, I believe where is it? Memphis, I think is where it is.
Right.
And you can stay in Memphis. They put you up at a hotel or something, or some places to stay, and the parents stay there while their child is being treated. So, I mean, it's really a very good hospital, and I really believe in it. And even the fact that they're bugging me a little bit isn't going to change my opinion of them,
Yeah.
So, But anyway, what I thought I want to do tonight? Something I've never done on any show I think that I've ever had. Because I wanted to ask each of you guys a question, and I don't know if anybody else is going to join us here. But Marjorie and I were sitting around talking the other day, and we started talking about our childhood. And then we started talking about words we used when we were kids. Like, what did you call taking a dump when you were a child? What did your parents teach you the word was? Can you remember? Really, you can't? I can.
Yeah. What?
I'm not going to tell you yet.
Okay.
Do you have one what did you call taking number 2?
Yeah.
I think it was taking a dump.
No, but you were like 3 years old. Come on, you're not going to say, I'm going to go take a dump, Mom.
No, but I don't know. I don't remember that one.
Don't you remember what term they gave you to say?
No.
Poo-poo?
Yeah, 3 years. Beautiful poo-poo.
Okay, the one I was taught, my parents called it was
What?
I'm not kidding you.
Like
and I suddenly, when we were talking about it, I suddenly remembered, it came back to me that it was Why it was I have no idea, but my parents said, are you going to go so that was the word that I used for it. Jeff, was there any term your parents taught you to say when you said you had to take a number 2?
The only thing I can remember is number 2.
Number 2? Okay. Well, that's better. And what about urinating? Did you have a term for urinating?
Take a leak.
No, you're 3 years old, for crying out loud.
I don't remember my childhood.
You're not going to, at that age, at 3, 4, 5, you're not going to use leak. Okay.
I don't know.
Wee-wee? I don't know.
Well, that's exactly what I was taught, was wee-wee.
Wee-wee, yeah.
It went along with
Wee-wee.
Did you use wee-wee, Jeff?
Yeah, I think wee-wee's a good one.
Oh, you're settling on wee wee, are you?
Yeah, why
How
not?
about you? How about you, Brian?
Brian.
Yeah, I know, Brian. Well, what about you? I mean, come
No,
on. You don't remember any of this
I
when you
don't
were a
remember.
kid?
No, I remember my mom passed away when I was 13. So
No.
my childhood, I don't remember much. I mean, thank God
No, but this is
my
before.
mom,
Yeah, yeah.
my mom had a camera.
Mhm.
So she took pictures all the time. She has like a Wee Me book for me from all my early years. I know
We
kids.
need both.
Yeah, Wee Me book, right? Yeah. So I had that book with my mom had this writing. She used to fill that out with pictures of me and cards from my birthdays. She saved all that. And then the pictures, I have all the pictures until she passed away. She used to put them in an album
Mhm.
and mark them for the different picnics we had and birthdays and all that stuff.
Okay, but we're not talking
Thank God
about.
for
We're
that.
not talking as late as 13. We're talking like maybe around 3, 4,
I don't
5.
remember any of my childhood except for that stuff. When
Really?
you
I
have
mean, I don't remember.
traumatic childhood,
I
yeah.
don't remember a lot of my childhood either, but I somehow remembered and wee wee.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, I have a sister,
Hmm.
and she is the person that I ask when it's something like that. Can you tell me what I should have said, or what did my parents say? Because she'll remember all of that crap.
Really? I'm
Yeah,
trying.
and I just kind of blow it away.
okay.
To
Yep.
me, it's not part of my brain that's useful.
Oh,
But what
okay.
about? So I remember like what I call my grandparents when I was that young. My grandmother was Nana, who's Italian, of course,
Yeah.
and my grandfather was Pal, Pal. And they said it was because of the Winnie the Pooh story and all that stuff. So I used to call him Pal all the time. So
Well, you see, when Marjorie said, "What did you call your grandparents?" That I couldn't remember that. You
see.
know, I mean, some people call their grandfather Pop Pop or something like that. I didn't have
And
that.
that's what we called our grandfather.
Yeah, I called my grandfather. I don't remember what I called him.
Hmm.
You know, I don't think I called him anything. I don't know. I don't remember that part. I don't remember. How about you, Richard Braun? You just joined us. What did you call taking a dump when you were a child? What were you
Well,
taught?
it comes with a story. Um, when I first took my dump in the toilet,
Mm-hmm.
and my father came home, my mom says, good news, Dad." And so I pointed to the toilet and I called it good news. This is good
You
news.
called it good news. So did you say to your parents when you had to go take a dump, "I'm going to go take a good news"?
I gotta, yeah.
Really? Really? That's interesting. How about you, Charlie?
You what?
What did you call doing number 2?
When I was a kid, I don't remember. My earliest memories are like age 5 or 6, so I have no recollection of what I called when I was going to the bathroom the first
Well, I
time.
mean, do you remember when you were 5 years old?
We just called it pooping.
All right. Okay. How about urinating?
Uh, Pee pee.
Okay. Pee pee, I think, is pretty common. You
Yeah.
know.
PP. This is the 60s. No, late 50s.
This is 50s for me. Yeah.
Late 50s.
Really? Oh, okay. All right. Now, here's the other question that came up today. Did any of you have like what some people would refer to as a whoopee, a toy, a doll of some sort? Like, even boys had teddy bears and things like that. Did you have one? Richard is saying yes. You did,
Yeah,
right?
I still have it. Lulak,
Really?
little rabbit, Lulak.
And what'd you call the rabbit?
His name was Lulak.
Lulak.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Tom?
I remember. I think I did have some kind of stuffed animal that was big that I could sit on, but I'm vaguely remember it.
That you could sit on?
Yeah, it was like a cushion. It was a
Oh,
stuffed animal.
yeah, but you didn't have a little like doll or something that you clutched?
No, nothing nothing like that. No.
How about you, Brian? Anything?
No.
Boy, you
no.
had a deprived childhood. My God.
I did. I did.
How about you, Jeff?
Zero.
Zero?
Zero
You don't
memory.
remember because most children have some
I
kind
know.
of a if you didn't have one, it was given to you usually by somebody. You know.
Yeah, my kids had a blanket or
I know my son has one.
And
Still has it.
And what was your son's name for his?
I don't remember.
What was it? A
that.
bear? Teddy bear?
I don't know.
Okay.
I could look it up.
Yeah. How about you, Charlie? Did you have a teddy bear or something like that?
I didn't. That's probably why I'm so screwed up today.
Really?
I had there was nothing I could hold on to calm myself to go to sleep or anything. It was like.
So outside of Richard here, none of you had a whoopee, as some people would refer to them. Okay, I had one. I had a bear. I had a bear.
Yeah.
Little bear, and his name was. I named him Piddly. I don't know. Now see, I don't. All of a sudden, these names came falling out of me when I was talking to Marjorie, and I'm going, "How do I remember Piddly?"
Actually, I did have a toy. I called Elmo.
Elmo. Wow.
When I was growing up, this was in South Jersey. There was a guy on television in Philadelphia named Bill Weber, and he had a little morning variety show. And when he did the weather, he had this toy, like the tightrope walker. So it was a guy on a cycle, little doll with two things out to balance him, and somebody I guess would wheel this thing on a little line, and he would catch the doll he called Elmo Wiffle Weather because there's WFIL. So the character was named Elmo Wiffle Weather, and then he'd read the forecast. And I love that toy so much. I had my parents get me one, so I had my own Elmo Wiffle Weather.
Oh, okay. So the guy was selling dolls on top of everything else.
No, he wasn't selling the doll. He was just doing the show.
Oh, but the doll was actually a doll named Elmo Wifflewaffer or whatever?
Well, I don't know what the official name was, but that's what he named it. And then they found one and they got it for me.
Oh, I see. So he had the doll on the show and then he used it. Exactly. I see. Okay. Yeah. Let me see here. I'm trying. Otherwise, that's all we talked about was our whoopee and our pee-pee and caca, whatever.
Well, we've got quite a capacity in our brains to remember stuff. So
well, how about Richard seems to be more memory wise on this one. What did you call going number 2? Oh, wait a minute! You just said you just told me that one. How about urinating? Was that the same thing?
Pee-pee.
Pee-pee. Okay,
at least that's what I think it was.
That's the default term, either pee-pee or wee-wee.
Yeah, it was kind enough in a gentler age.
Yeah. Well, what amazed me is that I remembered this. Immediately when I talked to Marjorie and I said, and then I had a little bear and his name was Piddly. And how did I remember that? I mean, I quit having Piddly around when I was, at least maybe 5, right? But by that time he was falling apart anyway. I remember his ass was losing all its fur and, and so was I, actually. Anyway. No, I thought I would just ask those questions tonight because we've never asked these questions of our audience, and it's very interesting that none of you had an answer except for Richard. Richard had good, solid answers on this. Did I ask you if you had some kind of doll that you or toy, bear or whatever that you had when you were a kid that you were fond of, Richard?
The toy?
Mm-hmm.
Other than Lulac?
Oh, Lulac. Yeah, you mentioned Lulac. Okay. All right. Now, but here's something. When you were a kid, what was your favorite toy to play with? And I probably you don't know about toys till you're about 5. I mean, you remember ones when you were 5. What did you like to play with the most outside of yourselves?
Cars.
Hmm?
Cars.
Cards?
I always had
Cars.
cars, and
Cars.
yeah. But even when I was born, my godfather gave me a football and a basketball and like stuff.
Yeah.
Even when I was born. So
But with the cars, are you talking about like Hot Wheels and stuff like that?
yeah, and even when I was younger, I remember some pictures. I have like a wooden car with the wooden wheels, like a kids level type car. But cars have been since day one.
Tom, do you remember a toy you had that you particularly liked when you were a child?
Yeah, my father, Thomas Francis Campbell Sr., was a carpenter, actually made me a train set out of wood with little wooden wheels, and they were hooked together with, the little hook and eye. Those were
Yeah.
And I love that train. I would roll it all over the floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about you, Richard? Anything?
I think Mousetrap and Game of Life.
Oh, those are games. Yeah, those are games. Yeah. But there wasn't like a toy of some sort that a lot of times parents will give their kids, especially their boys, a toy that kind of is like a construction toy or something that enables you to, do some thinking.
They gave me a train set.
Train set? Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't big enough for me.
How about you, Charlie?
Again, I don't remember as a small child. I just remember like at 5, 6, 7 years old. I remember getting 7. I got a train set, a Lionel train set for Christmas.
I had Lionel train too.
Yeah.
Who didn't? I didn't have one. My parents never got me a train set. Damn them.
And Lionel, and then we had HO.
Yeah.
H.
Was this the days when they had a little pill you could put in the smokestack and it would make smoke come out? I remember some of the early Lionels when I was growing up had that.
I know what you're talking about, but our trains, we never had that.
I remember smoke coming out, but I don't know what caused it.
Probably was burning up.
No, it was a feature of the train set, but I think my mom or my dad would fill up or whatever that made it do that.
And did you have the tracks for them and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
You need the tracks.
Yeah, with the little gate that goes up so the cars can go. I guess I did have some cars because the cars would go across the tracks.
Okay. That was kind of fancy.
I had trains, but I had real small ones. They were, I don't know, more of a Japanese version.
HO gauge.
Yeah, they were smaller.
HO gauge? Yeah.
Yeah, and they were great. They were fun to play with.
Yeah. Well, what my parents did, they gave me stuff that maybe could be creative. Okay. And my favorite toy originally was a thing called, and you probably don't even know these, Tinker Toys. Anybody know about Tinker Toys?
I had Tinker Toys, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Lincoln Logs.
Lincoln Logs. Remember Lincoln Logs?
Lincoln Logs, but I didn't get those. My parents got me the Tinker Toys. And then as I grew up and I wouldn't lacerate myself, they gave me erector sets.
That was what erector said. The metal things that you could build.
And you could build stuff and windmills and all kinds of things with them.
Well, the Lincoln Logs were created by one of Frank Lloyd Wright's sons.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, I used to live in a little city in northern San Diego County named called Del Mar. Del Mar, you've heard of Del Mar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was with a friend who lived there, and she said, "See that old guy in the car there? I think his name was John Lloyd Wright." She says, "Yeah, he's the son of Frank Lloyd Wright, and he created Lincoln Logs."
Wait a minute, the guy who was Frank Lloyd Wright's what?
Son.
Well,
at that time was really quite elder.
Came up with Lincoln Logs?
Yeah, that's what this friend told me.
Really?
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe, but you know, it might be true. I
So
mean, I
you
wonder.
guys are talking about cars, right?
Yeah.
So I still do these things all the time.
Wow.
Well, you put them together.
The Legos?
Yeah.
Oh, models.
But they
I'll
didn't
show you
have
another one
Legos
right
when
here.
I was a kid.
Look at
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Look.
You put
How
those
about
together.
planes?
Oh, yeah. That's
How
McLaren.
about planes? You
McLaren.
put
Yeah.
planes together?
Mhm.
My older brother did model planes. He put was it Revell?
Yeah.
I did that.
Thank
Revell,
you.
yeah. You glue them together.
Well, I
Airplanes,
remember
right?
the days when the only model airplanes that you could make were made out of balsa wood. And you used to like put the frames together and then you used to wrap paper on them or something to make these model planes. And at a certain point, Revell, and I know this sounds strange, Revell dumped the balsa wood concept and went to plastic.
Yeah.
And that wasn't much to do. You just boom, 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 and you got yourself an airplane or something, you know.
Yeah.
So Lincoln Logs were invented by John Lloyd Wright, second son of well-known architect Frank Lloyd Wright.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Isn't that a piece of trivia?
1916, yeah.
Yep.
Isn't that a piece of trivia? Wow.
Good pickup, Tom.
Yeah.
So he was not an architect.
I think
Obviously.
he was an architect too.
Oh,
Maybe.
Well, probably to come up with Lincoln Logs, he would probably have to be an architect, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I never had Lincoln Logs, but they were terrific, you know. But I had erector sets, and all the parts from the erector set were all over my bedroom, you know. The parts you didn't
Could you put them
use.
together?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Were you good at it?
Yeah, I was pretty good at it. You know, they had little screws and everything like that. They were the metal version of kind of Tinker Toys. Tinker Toys were really, I guess, when you were more of a child, you know, because you couldn't get harmed with them. And they had these wheels with all these holes in them, and you'd stick the pin and things in them, and then they were good. They were a lot of fun.
Well, a great invention was glue. Right?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know who came up with that, but on any of those models, ultimately glue
Oh,
was
yeah.
a big
Yeah.
way of putting them together, particularly the plastic.
Well, I didn't like models, making models once they were plastic. You know, it just seemed too simple. You know, before I had to actually create each and every single part, right? In fact, I hardly ever did because it was just too much to do. You got this diagram, and then you had to cut out the wings and then bend them to go with, you know. And then all of a sudden they did away with the balsa wood versions, and there was nothing but the plastic. And I said, how much fun can this be? And I got one once I put together in 5 minutes, you know.
This one, you couldn't put that together.
Did you put these together yourself?
Yes.
When?
This one about a year ago.
Really? So you've been do you do that to help you with your coming back from a stroke? Yeah.
Gotta help.
You know, so somebody, I'll tell you what it was. Somebody gave me one, and I always just stored it, and I never opened it up. I never worked on it, and it was actually a Frank Lloyd Wright building.
Really?
Yeah, you know, there's the Frank Lloyd Wright building in Manhattan.
Oh, well, at Guggenheim.
The Guggenheim, the circle one.
Yeah.
So I had it, and then we went somewhere. We went up to Maine, and we had a couple of weeks to spend there, and I figured, boy, if it's raining, I got nothing to do. And somebody says, why don't you take your model and you can put that together? So I did that, and I kind of got to doing that.
So was it a miniature Guggenheim museum then?
Yeah.
Or it couldn't be the real size Guggenheim museum.
But it's about...
That's the stupidest question I've ever asked. Yeah.
So I started doing that. And, because one of the problems is I don't have good skills about reading things. And so I was able to do these mechanical things. And I got to tell you, this one, had, I would say, several thousand parts.
Well, hold it up again.
The McLaren, yeah, I have that one, Jeff. I haven't put it together yet.
Well, Jeff has.
Yeah, and you know who does that stuff is Kevin. Kevin's addicted to that stuff. He's sending me texts of pictures of the ones that he's been building. If he calls,
oh really? I wish he called tonight. Yeah,
his whole
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, didn't we all have wonderful childhoods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one I just did. It was pretty.
That's pretty
small
good.
and easy.
That's nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice to see that after your impairment, as it were, you have that kind of dexterity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, when stuff gets so small, I get Pam to help me because my fingers are not as
They're not as nimble.
sensitive of these real small.
Marjorie leaves me every morning when I get up. She leaves me 2 pills that are filled with vegetables or something. I don't know, one of those stupid things you see on TV. And she leaves 2 of them, one for the morning and one for night. Well, I'm never going to remember to take them at night, so I just take both of them. And when I try and get 2 pills in my hand at the same time, it's hard for me to grab them these days and to hold them and put them in my mouth. So I have to be very careful.
Yeah.
You look like you have that problem, right, Charlie?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I dropped the pills for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And it'll
For no reason.
by the way, Charlie, just in case you don't know, it will get worse.
Thanks, Alex.
You know, I didn't start falling apart till I was about, 81. And then the legs started to go, the feet because of the neuropathy and this thing and that thing. And now I hardly ever go out for a walk because I just don't want to put the strain on myself. But I have to go out. I'm going to do it starting tomorrow. That's what I said yesterday. Anyway, but so it's nice that we visited your childhood. We found out that Brian didn't have one.
Thank you.
Really, that's kind of. Do you feel you got robbed of something because or maybe you had a lot of good childhood memories, but you didn't remember them as you grew up?
No, I since my mom took the pictures, I remember I had a good childhood. But after your parent gets taken away, my mom was the only, she was the one raising me. My mom and dad were divorced, and that's where
what happened
when his life about happens.
Let me ask you: when she died, what happened? Where did you land, with your father or relatives?
She had just remarried, so he, she died, and then so he said, "Oh, he'll adopt me," and I don't know, I'm 12, 13. I said, "Okay." He adopted me, but then he was never home. He was always with his girlfriend and then wife and that stuff. So
what were you?
Sort of raised myself.
You raised yourself. That's fascinating.
Yeah, he would show up like once every month and like yell at me for not doing yard work, and then like, okay, let's go to the grocery store and fill up the cart, and then he'd be gone for
Wow.
So
that's interesting. That's fascinating. So when your mother was alive, was she a very present mother and a good mother?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she, I played sports. We all came to my house to play sports in the front yard and in the street. And then when my mom would pull up, I'm like, okay, guys, bye. And I would go in the kitchen while she's making dinner and talk about her day.
Yeah.
So she was very, very present with me.
So I imagine that was pretty tragic for you when she.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And then it was pretty tragic for me when my father went. He was only 59, and it was a pituitary tumor, which 5 years later they could easily take care of, but at that time they didn't know any way to take care of it, and that pretty much really put me off. When my mother went, she was like over 100 years old, so I just went, hey, one more parking space. She lived to be 100 and change, and at that point I just didn't really feel much of anything because I felt, hey, she'd really lived a good long life, and if I'm going to sit here and cry about that. I'm being selfish because there are people that lose their parents very early, and I got to keep my mother till she was over 100. I think that was God's way of getting even with me, but because my mother was kind of a pain in the ass. But anyway, she lived to be 100, so I had her for many, many years after my father went. But I remember when my father went, I was just distraught because I loved him. I was crazy about him. Losing a parent, I'm sure everybody here has lost a parent by now because you're a bunch of old farts.
They're old.
Yeah, but I think we'd all agree that's the most traumatic thing that can probably happen to you.
Sorry, I'll be back.
Thank you, Arnold.
I got a call. No, I got a call. Adrian's calling me. My daughter's calling me.
Your daughter's calling you. Okay.
She's more important than you guys. Bye.
I don't blame you.
Oh boy, he's speaking of fathers, he's a good father. For a guy who never was a father till he was, I think, over 50.
Yeah.
Or maybe was he over 50 at the time? No, maybe a little under 50. But
he was 48 when she was born.
Yeah, he became a great father. I mean, he's just got a very loving relationship with Adrian, and also the other two kids that were his significant others' children. He took on as a parent, but he was, of course, more fond of Adrian because that was his flesh and blood. But he's been a great father, You've all had children. If you had children, you've had children, haven't you, Tom?
Yeah, I have two.
You have two, and Jeff has children.
And one of them is her birthday is the day before yours.
Really, the 17th.
Yeah.
And Richard, you have some children?
I have two of my own and 5 steps.
Five stepchildren?
Right.
Wait a minute.
My first wife started without me.
Hmm?
My first wife started without me.
Okay.
And she gave me 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I married again and had 4 steps that way.
Wow.
Yeah. Everybody was a teenager at that.
Let me ask you about that though. See, I've never had any kids at all. Wait a minute, here comes Brian again. Let me ask him something. So what did she want?
She dialed me by accident.
Oh, getting butt dialed by your daughter. That's really terrific. Yeah. So, my question, I was just saying what a good father you are. But, when you have that many stepchildren and you have 2 real children, of course, you're probably, I would say, I don't know, I've never been a parent. But I would say I would probably be more fond of the 2 children that were my flesh and blood. But I wouldn't deny the other children my love and affection either.
Yeah, not at all. But I feel close to all of them.
Yeah, well, of course.
I don't communicate with them as regularly as their moms do.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this though. How many of them have grown up and had their own children?
They're all grown up. Only one has a child already.
Okay. Is that one of your own children or one of the stepchildren?
Steps.
So do you feel that you're a grandfather?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you have them from a baby. Anyway, my mindset was like, let's make a perfect child, and they don't turn out perfect. But when you see them come from zero, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You have great visions of what it's going to be, but it.
Did they turn out okay?
Yeah, all of them are doing well, significant others or married, and good jobs.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. Yeah. How about you, Charlie? You got 2, right?
3.
Yeah. And you're a grandfather now.
He has a handsome grandson. A handsome grandson.
You just like his green onesie.
I see that picture with him with his dad, and I'm like, oh, who is this? Oh, Charlie, you love these pictures.
Yeah, I saw those pictures too.
I do. I love him even when he's wearing Eagle stuff.
Oh, really? The other team, huh?
Yeah.
And your daughter looks
is a big
great too. Charlie's daughter is a very gorgeous woman.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, Charlie's a good-looking guy. What can we say? You know. And of course, we got Brian Neary there, who is, you know, he's a tuxedo model.
No, but her other two kids, you know, 11 years raised them. So their birthdays, I took them out and gave them something. Christmas, I dropped off gifts for them, you know. So, but yeah, it's definitely a different feeling with them. But you know, I treat them as my own.
And Tom, your children, how did they turn out? What are they doing?
Well, they're doing great. The older one has a daughter herself, so that makes me a grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And she's currently development director of the Oakland Asian Cultural Center in Chinatown.
Your granddaughter? No,
my daughter.
Your daughter, right?
My older daughter. She's 50, and then her younger sister lives next door to me and manages the property and does other things, and she's in her late 30s.
Yeah. And your kids, did I ask you, Mr. Braun, Richard, about your children and what they became?
My first stepchild is an artist slash teacher of art and novelist. My son works for New York City Law Department.
Mm-hmm.
Daughter just became a doctor last year.
Wow.
And she went through quite a few things in the medical profession, and she was degreed up to master's in testing equipment or something like that, medical testing, and then got her her master's in business administration, which was a great deal.
Right.
And now she's up at Yale. She's in Bridgeport Hospital.
Wow. Now, is that one of your direct children? Or,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's really something.
And then stepchild is a teacher. Next one is a sociologist, psychiatrist, nearly a psychiatrist.
How many total kids were there between the stepchildren and the actual two that you had?
There's 5 steps.
5 steps and
two natural.
So you had 7 children, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are any of them gay?
No.
Oh, because you would think out of 7 children, the odds would be, you know, because I had a friend I was writing to. I won't say who he is, but he wrote me back and he told me about what's happening with him. And I said, how are you? And he told me where he's working. And then he told me about his children. And he said, and of course, that child has a ring through her nose and has a girlfriend. And I thought to myself, I would ask that question when we were doing all this stuff tonight, because chances are out of 7 children, at least one of them would be gay, if not 2, you know? But no, huh?
No.
Wow.
The other 2, electrician and I would say car mechanic for the other.
Well, if I had turned out gay, my mother would have been selfish and said to me, I'm never going to be a grandmother, you know. Well, I got news for...
Sounds like our generation.
I had news for her. She never became a grandmother, okay? So...
Not that that's a bad thing.
Well, she always kept bugging me. When am I going to be a grandmother? When am I going to be a grandmother? Right. And I said, well, you know, not yet, you know.
Yeah, if Mom was 105, she would still not be a grandma.
Yeah, well, my mother lived to be 100, and that's you know, I mean, we had her in the old folks' home for the aged. One time she asked me, why am I here? And I said, because you're old and you're aged. I mean, you're Jewish and you're aged. But that was a good place to have her. It was like if you had an old person that you had to send to a hospital somewhere when they're old to take care of them. This was kind of like the Harvard of old folks' homes. They had like one person working for every person that was there.
Wow.
Which is pretty good coverage. And we'd had her in other places, and it just didn't work. And then I had a cousin who had an inn with the Jewish Home for the Aged in San Francisco, and he pulled his weight and got her in there. And this was a good place to be. I mean, that's where I would want to be if I got old and I, was getting infirmed and couldn't get around. And, the first thing they did when they got her was they shaved her. She had all these hairs, coming out everywhere. And they shaved her. They plucked them all, and got her looking pretty good, for an old broad. So anyway, she was. But we lost her at 101 and a half, I think it was. And I got the news. What happened was they said to me, "Your mother is refusing to eat." And I said, "Well, why?" He says, "Well, sometimes they get old and." They just don't want to eat anymore. It's kind of like they really want to die, And he said, we can force feed her and we can just keep her alive, or we can just give her food and see if she eats it. And if she doesn't and she dies, well, then she's going on her own terms. What do you want to do? And I'm in Macy's here in New York at the time buying a pair of pants. And I've got to make this decision. And I just said, look, if she doesn't want to eat, then why force her to,
Right.
Eventually about a week later, I got a call and she was dead. And so I had to fly back home to San Francisco and, do whatever. And I just said, that's what she wanted.
And that's more common than people think. I know other people that have gone the same way. They just sort of like, and I don't know, maybe it might be even painful for them to eat. It might be part of the reason too. I don't know, but they just stop eating. And
no, it wasn't a matter, I think, of painful. It was just that they just said she was refusing food, And I think that happens. And
that's what I say. I think it happens more commonly than we recognize.
Yeah, but I figured, hey, she's 101. She's almost 101 years old. Come on, she damn lucky, Maybe not so lucky the last couple of years of her life, because they were a little more strenuous. But I had her in a good place, and I was happy that she was taken care of. Now I got to buy her a tombstone.
That's still. Oh my God.
Wow.
Well, I just never gotten around to it, and I really should before I drop dead. Otherwise, It's just a blank space there in the cemetery without anything on it. And all I've got to do is pull my father's stone and just put one whole stone up. And, how much could that cost me? Probably too much.
A lot.
A lot.
Well, did you say you have $1 million?
Yeah, Marjorie's selling her apartment, and we're going to wind up having over $1 million. Yeah.
Okay, because you got Shecky's inheritance, right?
Yeah, right. That helped us get towards the $1 million. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's we may not have all that money from Shecky any longer since we all put it in stocks. But anyway.
Oh God. Oh God.
Well, no.
Start the music. Don't talk about the orangutan, please.
Don't talk about the what?
The orangutan.
Exactly. Nothing.
What about the orangutan?
No,
Don't talk about the orangutan. Start the music and let it go.
Oh, we haven't talked about the orangutan all hour, and that was my desire for this. Thank you very much for never mentioning his name or talking about it. Anyway, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate it, really do. Tom, always a pleasure to have you here. Richard, Do it as often as you can, okay? Charlie, thank you very much, sir. And Brian, give my best to Adrian, okay?
Yeah, so she'll be a guest on the show tomorrow night, so everybody watch.
Oh, okay. She'll be sticking her face in the side of the screen, making funny faces. Everybody, give a big wave goodbye. I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. Okay, there they go. That's our citizen panel for tonight. Amy is back tonight with The Intersection. She'll be up next. I will see you again tomorrow night, same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her. Okay, bye bye, everybody. Talk to you later.